Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Just still getting used to this cold weather.
Look, I'm very happy. I finally converted my closet to winter-esque. And
Oh,
it took me a minute because you always forget how much stuff you have to move around so you can, adapt to the cold weather and do layers and
yeah.
I always forget how many sweaters I have, how many hoodies and sweatshirts, sweatpants, all that type of stuff. So I'm very happy to say that I'm sitting in a sweater now, and I'm very happy I don't have to hunt anymore. I know exactly where they are. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for the cold weather. You know what? I just thought of something. I have not found my winter hats.
Oh, you have to find those
I
hats.
have to
I
find my
just found some
hats.
the other day.
There, no, that means I put my hats and my mitten and my scarves in a bag for safekeeping. Now I got to go find them. So
Oh,
they're in my
okay.
closet someplace or some other place. That's the
Gotcha.
only thing I got to find. I just thought of that, but we haven't had any snow yet, so
Oh,
I'm good.
yeah. So Andrea, what are some of the chocolate news stories of the week?
Well, it the chocolate news stories that we this has been a very interesting news week, just from who's going, who's leaving, who's speaking, and I mean, well, breaking news right now. That we're this story is still developing, so I'm sure we'll have more to talk about it at a later date. But there's been another multiple shooting. It's at the University of Nevada, the Las Vegas campus. The suspect is dead, or I should say, the alleged suspect is dead. But there have been multiple victims. One person is critical from the shooting. It was so because things are so close together in Las Vegas, they've even had to do a ground stop at the Harry Reid International Airport for a minute because of how close the university's campus is to the runways of the airport. And they were afraid the shooter was going to run out away from the campus onto the runways. They've since, lifted that ground stop. But it seems that the incident occurred between two buildings. One was the Beam Hall, which is the home to the university's business school, and the other one was a student union located one building over from Beam Hall. And multiple victims. Again, we don't know what caused it, what sparked it, things like that. So this story is still developing, which is unfortunate. This has occurred. This is my breaking news for the moment. But which is also interesting today, though, talking about guns. The city of Cincinnati announced today that they are going to consider a new piece of legislation within the city limits. Councilwoman Liz Keating has introduced this legislation to making people who own guns more responsible, especially if you leave it in your car, if you take it with you inside a restaurant or another business or things like that, and you leave it or it gets taken away or something, whatever may happen. Too many cars are being broken into looking for firearms. In the city of Cincinnati last year, over 550 firearms were stolen last year. This year alone, we're not even at the end of the year, over 600 guns have been stolen out of cars in Cincinnati. And some of these guns have been used in gun incidents involving young people. So Liz Keating, and this is her final piece of legislation that she's introducing to be considered by city council before she leaves, because she's been voted out of office. Basically, we want to close that negligent gap of gun owners. So if your gun is stolen and you want it back, depending upon the circumstances, you may face a misdemeanor, and or you may have to pay a fee to get it, recover it from the police department. It is it's very interesting legislation to be introduced. It is supported by a number of community leaders. The police chief is supporting it. Even the city solicitor's office came out at the press conference and spoke up about this and how good it is, because they're looking at all angles of the gun violence that's going on in Cincinnati, but also across the country. And they're saying that, state of Ohio has a law now that it's open carry regarding guns. You don't have to be permitted to own a gun, things like that. But you got to be responsible. And I believe one law is to cover this negligent gap, but I think another law is requiring you, they did pass that law earlier, requiring you to lock up your gun. If you have it in your car, it either has to have a gun lock on it, or you have to buy a vault and put it installed in your car to keep the gun safe. So they're looking at it as a two-prong effect. They're still trying to go after the shooters, but they're also going to go after the gun owners. Everyone's got to be responsible. So if you own a gun, think about why you have that gun in your car or on your person, but also how are you keeping the gun safe when you don't need it. It's also been we've had a number of deaths that have occurred. Sandra Day O'Connor died. I forgot. The number of notable old actors have died. And unfortunately, Norman Lear died today.
Yeah.
And my television viewing habits were shaped by Norman Lear. In fact, one gentleman who created Everybody Loves Raymond, he said the television industry could be divvied up in two states, before Norman and after Norman. And I think it's because before Norman, the view of the television landscape was cowboy and Indians, cop shows, but from a very particular point of view. After Norman Lear came on the scene, we saw some TV shows that looked more like America. And if you think about Norman, he is responsible for The Jeffersons, All in the Family, Sanford and Son, Maude, Good Times. All of these were record-breaking, society norm-breaking viewpoints about the average working family, the Black family who has done good, the working Black family that's trying to survive, and Maude, who has a certain opinion, facing different issues, facing women of that time period. I mean, if you remember with Maude, the big thing that occurred with Maude, I think, was facing menopause, and I think it was about abortion. Were the big issue. Good Times was about a family who was living in a housing project, trying to make it good. And in the end, they did finally get out, but the husband, James, didn't, because he died during the show. Sanford and Son, which was starring Red Fox, he played the guy who, used to drive through the neighborhood picking up all kinds of stuff that people set out in trash to sell it. And, Sanford and Son, he had a business, which was fixing things, getting things and reselling them. And one man's trash is another man's treasure, so to speak. But Norman Lear, he broke the mode, he pushed the envelope, and he mentored people in the age of television that changed how your view of TV, how you viewed comedy, and what was good, what wasn't good, and pushing the envelope. So he was 101.
Wow.
Yes, that's the other thing. He was 101.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
And the thing is like, and he was still working too, like just up until his death, because for the past couple of years they've been doing like it's like they were remaking like special episodes of The Jeffersons,
oh yes,
times with like current actors. They're using the scripts from back then, but they're updating it. So like I think Jamie Foxx was George Jefferson in one episode, and I think Archie Bunker was played by Woody Harrelson one episode. But anyway, like he won a primetime Emmy for one of those specials. So he was still, working up until this year. So I just find that remarkable.
It is. I mean, in fact, he's known to not only push the envelope in television, he also worked in documentaries about other people in television. He's especially known, he was friends with Carl Reiner, And Rob Reiner, who was Carl Reiner's son, starred in All in the Family, and he was known as Meathead. He is now one of the top directors in Hollywood. Carl Reiner is, and he's done a number of comedy movies that have done extremely well. But Lear participated in a documentary about Carl Reiner entitled "If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast." And basically, I've heard that before. A lot of older people who look at the obituaries, and if they see, okay, I'm not mentioned, okay, let's go do something else. It's a good day. I was like, oh my goodness. So, which I think is wonderful. But Norman Lear I know there's going to be a lot of people giving tributes to him and his influence over the time. I mean, I should say over the generations of television and how it's evolved, which I think is fantastic. So it's sad about Norman Lear. Another history-making moment, Kevin McCarthy is leaving Congress.
Yay.
I saw the notification earlier, and I was like, what? I was in a meeting, and I just happened to hear my phone kept popping off, because I'm a news junkie. And I was like, what in the world is breaking news? And there it was. Representative Kevin McCarthy from California has announced that he's not going to complete the rest of his term, that he's just going to resign and leave Congress at the end of this month. So at the end of December, he's walking out. I mean, if you think about it, he's the only Speaker of the House that's been ousted by his colleagues.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say either.
and he sees Mike Johnson, who's being a little bit more successful than he is, but not much. Basically, McCarthy said in an op-ed that appeared in the Wall Street Journal announcing his retirement, said, no matter the odds or personal costs, we did the right thing. That may seem out of fashion in Washington these days, but delivering results for the American people is still celebrated across this country. I question that comment.
Yeah.
And he said, it is in this spirit that I have decided to depart the House at the end of this year to serve America in new ways. I know my work is only getting started. He said, good God help us all. It's kind of sad. I feel sad for the Republican Party because they are on such a spiral on the national level that I don't think they know how to stop themselves. But I think what's interesting is that in the House now, the House GOP is in charge of Congress they did have a 9 people majority? They gave the majority. Is it 9?
Probably. I think so.
Right. Well, they just ousted George Santos. So they went from 9 to 8. And now with McCarthy leaving, they're down to 7 because there's no guarantee what the state of New York will appoint for Santos' seat and who California's going to appoint for McCarthy's seat. And so there's no guarantee that they're going to come back Republican because both states have Democrat governors. So depending upon what the rule is for those states on how they replace their representatives, it's going to be interesting to see who steps in those spots. But that just means that the Dems may gain, 2 more seats in the House. So that's such a slim majority. Johnson can't afford to lose anybody on anything he brings up on legislation. Though Mike Johnson is being questioned right now in terms of where his loyalties lie regarding the Constitution, America, because he's come to find out he has questionable loyalties to the American people because he believes in discrimination. He believes in people not being gay. He believes in fact, he's accused of writing a foreword for a book that has a lot of conspiracy theories that go along with Donald Trump and not the other way. So it's going to be interesting, this saga of what's a good soap opera name for the Congress? I want to say as the world turns, as Congress turns, but you don't want that. America's Hope. No, you don't want to do that.
We could just be bland, just call Congress, just like how Dallas was Dallas. Just say,
that's true. Congress. The soap opera of Congress continues. Yeah. So, Okay, we have to come up with something different. That's not. I mean, Dallas is Dallas for a reason, but
Yeah.
we'll we'll be keeping everybody up to date about what's happening next, because we do have some interesting races in Ohio next year for both the Ohio House and for the Senate, because Sherrod Brown, the GOP is gunning for a Sherrod Brown seat. Greg Landsman is going to be facing re-election after defeating
No, not
Shabbat. Thank
what
you.
was it? Okay.
Steve Shabbat, Greg Lands defeated Steve Shabbat for District 1. The GOP wants that seat back. Brian Winstrup, has announced his resignation. He's not seeking re-election, so his seat is open, and a number of people are jumping in for his seat. Now, his seat is definitely Republican, but Greg Landsman's seat is definitely more Democratic heavy with Republican folks. So it's going to be interesting to see how this mixture is going to affect Ohio next year when it comes to our representatives in both the House and the Senate. Good times.
Oh
We're
yeah,
looking for
good
good times.
times.
Good
Good
times.
times.
But also, I think we also need to, as we talk about the GOP, we also need to take a look at Liz Cheney's new book, Oath and Honor, a memoir and a warning. And she's making the rounds of the talk shows right now promoting her book. And I excuse me, I was interested in what she had to say, so I bought it. And I haven't really read it yet, but I did read the epilogue of it because I was curious. And basically she is the book is a warning letter, a very thick warning letter to America. Take your blinders off, step up, and look at what's about to happen. Because some people are like, well, Donald Trump gets back in, we got check and balances in place. No, we don't. Because the people who would do the check and balances are doing the crazy stuff now in Congress. And do you think they're going to check Donald Trump when he gets in office?
Nope.
And Liz Cheney, basically, she's saying over again, as a nation, we can endure damaging policies for a 4-year term, but we cannot survive a president willing to terminate our Constitution. And that's where we are. Because Donald Trump is saying right now in all of his speeches that you hear about, he's saying on day one, he is going to disrupt our court system. He's going to disrupt our Congress. He's going to disrupt a whole lot of stuff because he's not getting his way. And in fact, I was telling you earlier that the Biden campaign, based on what Trump said in his speech, that on day one he was going to do certain things. So they have come out and said they're now calling him the day one dictator. And it's a hashtag. And I believe it's going to be a campaign ad. It's going to be a lot of things. And I think a lot of people are going to pick up on it. The day one dictator. And that's basically what Donald Trump wants. He likes dictators. He likes those countries that have authority figures, autocrats. And I think that he identifies more with them because they're in charge and people have to do what they say compared to what the rule of law says. And he's trying to ignore the rule. Right now, the rule of law is keeping him somewhat in place, even though he's speaking. And unless the rule of law can stop him, we're going to have to step up. And I think the American people have to decide, do you like what you have? If you want to keep it, you got to vote one way. If you don't like what you have, but you like what this man says, vote this way. And I think it comes down to, what do the American people want? What is their hopes? What are their dreams? Because if the Republicans get their way, they want to take away Medicare. They want to take away Social Security. They want to take away everything that we hold dear, that it helps the American people, and do something different. They're not offering anything else in place. But read Liz Cheney's book. I'm going to be reading it. So if anything really good comes up out of it, I will let you know. So that being said, I think also, but on the flip side of Congress, a good thing has come out. There is proposed legislation to honor Rosa Parks by creating a federal holiday.
Good.
And designating December 1st as a federal holiday, because on December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks was riding the bus and decided not to give up her seat, and she sat, which was the turning point for the civil rights movement. And so this proposal to honor Rosa Parks has been introduced by the Representative Terry Sewell of Alabama, the 7th District, along with the Congressional Black Caucus Chairman Stephen Horsford, and our own Ohio's own Representative Joyce Beatty, who represents who's from Columbus area, to propose Rosa Parks Day Act. And so it's gonna be interesting to see if this comes about. So, but this is interesting. We always talk about Rosa Parks. We talk about the work that she did getting arrested in Montgomery, Alabama. How the bus is now in the Civil Rights Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. And it was the beginning of an act of defiance that helped change the world, or at least change the US in its thinking and about civil rights and about Black people and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of it. Also, another historic moment, Kamala Harris, who has broken a number of tie-breaking votes in the Senate in the gist of her career. She's been in the office now, 3 years now? She has cast 32 tie-breaking votes, breaking Vice President John C. Calhoun in the 19th century, who had a record number of 31 tie-breaking votes when he served as vice president between 1825 and 1832. She cast a 32nd tie-breaking vote earlier this week. Chuck Schumer gave her a golden gavel in honor of her historic tie-breaking vote. And just think of any other tie-breaking vote that she does from now until the end of her term is history. Yeah. Every count now is history. So that's going to be interesting. Oh, yeah. It is in the tie-breaking vote actually was done on the confirmation of, I'm going to butcher her name, but I'm going to say it anyway, Lauren Ali Khan as a U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia. And it was for her confirmation to be a judge. And that was the tie-breaking vote. That sounds good. And it also, what's interesting is that Joe Biden, in the 8 years that he served as vice president under President Barack Obama, he never did once cast a tie-breaking vote. Huh. Now, Mike Pence, in the Trump administration, or I should say 45's administration, he cast 13 tie-breaking votes.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it's just interesting. And but it's always the smaller things that occur. You never think about who's making history where. So congratulations, Vice President Harris. That's going to be interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now, 2 more stories, then I'm done. One, just bring everyone's attention to the mother of a California woman has been cleared of murder after her baby died in a home birth. Now, mind you, this home birth occurred, I believe, in 2020, in November 2020, but it's taken this long to clear her. Clear her of child endangerment charges. And what happened was she was alone in her apartment when she gave birth to her child, or the newborn baby, but she also suffered blood loss. And when she gave birth, suffered blood loss, when she passed out, she woke up, her baby was dead. The coroner ruled that the death was an accident, but attributed the baby's death to methamphetamine and something else exposure and an unintended delivery. But unfortunately, Kelsey Carpenter did have a drug abuse, but she was getting treatment for the abuse because she was pregnant. But unfortunately, I guess it was still in her system or something or other. And it's not illegal to expose your child to these medications. It's not illegal to have an unintended delivery. But I guess how it all occurred was suspicious. that the prosecutors first charged her with murder, and then they, after years of a legal battle, Carpenter pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of child endangerment because of the exposure to illegal drugs. And she's been credited for time already served while she was waiting for release, but she was released without having to go through probation or anything else. So basically, she served, she's done, she can move on with her life, which is kind of sad to say. But I would just say, if you are a pregnant woman doing something, make sure that you have someone with you when you're close to term. So if anything can go wrong, you are protected, but also you will be safe and your baby will be safe if anything like this happens. So it's kind of sad, but I'm glad the outcome is better and she can move on.
Yeah.
So well done. And then finally, the Bengals look so good in their black and white uniforms. I just have to say that. First off, I had to go there. I had to have a vain moment.
Oh,
so the Bengals beat the Jaguars.
Yeah.
On Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football.
I know, right?
Normally they don't do so well on Monday Night Football.
Exactly.
But they beat them. And Jake Browning stole the spotlight. Everyone's been worried about what he could do. And guess what? He pulled it out. He showed up, he showed out. And we may have a chance.
Yeah.
Joe Burrows is still our guy, but I think Jake Browning has shown that he could also be our guy.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see what happens, and keep the faith. We got 5 more games to go.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but we got 5 more games to go. So that's I would say we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed and keep on going. So, and that is all the chocolate news that we have today.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. And now we're going to move on to our guest for the day. And our special guest is a writer and producer. He's actually a co-writer and producer on the upcoming film, The Private Eye. This is Hope Ayiyi. How's it going, Hope?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you could make it on the show. In fact, I was talking to the director of The Private Eye several weeks ago, and and he said, I can get a whole bunch of people from The Private Eye. Would you like that? And I said, yeah, I would like that. It's like, give me everyone who worked on the film, anybody, everybody, more so behind the scenes because I'm more into behind the scenes on the film, but you can get the actors in there too. I'm just kidding. I love everyone who's worked on the film. So first of all, I guess I just want to say, like, what is The Private Eye about? Like, what is the movie about?
So The Private Eye is a mystery film. There's romance in it as well. So, mystery romance. So with that being said, I can't give too much away because it's a mystery film. It's a film like I'll use an example, Fight Club or, Matrix, Sixth Sense, where you might have to watch it a second time just to be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. You know what I mean? But it's a mystery. Yeah. I'll give you the base log line. It's a mystery story about a private investigator, Private Eye, who was hired for a very, very unusual case. And somewhere along the line, romance kind of, is introduced to the story and lines start to get a little blurred. And there is a big reveal at the end of the film. And then, since we're speaking now, I'll let you know there's a post-credit scene as well. So, you're definitely going to want to stay seated in your seats until, the end of the credits so you can get the last scene. So it'll really tie it up for everyone.
Oh yeah, you gotta get them with that. You gotta get them with that post-credit scene, man. Make them wait until the end of the film.
Yeah, quick to be able to, get you to stay seated to see all of the talented people and just all the hard workers that it took to, even make this film possible. That always happens. As soon as the credit rolls, people are out of their seat. They're trying to be the first ones back to the car. But when you're at a Marvel film, you got to stay seated because you're going to miss something. So it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, but I'm glad we were able to use it.
Yeah, most definitely, because I'm one of those film nerds who will sit throughout the entire movie, through the end credits scene, because I just feel that, but besides the great score that plays through the end credits scene, you gotta acknowledge all the work that people did, because it's already hard enough making a film. It's even harder making a great film. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, plus the end credits music is always great.
Yeah, we that was kind of one of our themes. We wanted to make sure we didn't only just have a great end credit song, but just we wanted a theme throughout the film. So we did, I guess I'd say our inspos were like The Long Goodbye. It's a neo noir. And then there's an anime called Bleach. But what they did so beautifully is they used Spanish guitars at like a very fast pace. They slow it down, but it's Spanish guitars. We shot in East LA, Highland Park area, so it was just an all around homage, and we painted that kind of story. So there's certain landmarks and things you'll see throughout the film where you be like, if you're from LA or you live out here, you'd be like, oh, that's East LA. Okay, the music's starting to make sense now. When you're hearing the Spanish guitars all throughout the film, you're like, well, this isn't necessarily a Spanish film, or there's really not that many Latin, actors in it, but we used it, just for a geological standpoint. And then we also, want to pay homage to The Long Goodbye and Bleach and, Chinatown and a couple films like that.
Bro, I love Chinatown. So you had me at Chinatown. You also had me at Bleach. So
Don't know about Bleach, so they're not really anime fans. I'm a huge anime fan, so Bleach is my top five, and that's what I love about it is how they use the Spanish guitars, or when things start to get a little dark, they'll play different, notes on the guitar or whatnot. So yeah, we just kind of wanted to have our composer Ryan Remington just really, really just stick to the theme, and he did a great job with it.
yeah, most definitely. Now I want to ask, how long did it take to write the film?
That's a good question because there was, so many reiterations. I would say it was written within the first couple of years, but we kept going back. So all in all, the final draft that we have right now, I would say in total, off and on, is about 6, 7 years. And that's kind of it's heard of and it's not unheard of. Nowadays I'm writing scripts within a day or two.
Mm,
I wrote a whole series, with my writing partner, within 3 weeks. That was 8 episodes. So I'm a very, quick writer. But
yeah.
for this one, when it's collaborative and you want to make sure you're doing, a great job and it's a mystery and you're trying to, set up red herrings and tent poles and all these kind of things, for the audience to stay engaged with, those take time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I see that you're one of the main producers on the film. Can you remind me in the audience, like, what is the main role of a producer? So like what is the day-to-day role of a producer and everything? Just like their grand, like what was their effect on the whole project in general?
Yeah, so Denzel Whitaker said it best. He was one of the supporting cast on the film. Phenomenal actor. But he broke it down and he says, producing, it's two things: it's being a facilitator and a negotiator. And ever since he said that, it's kind of stuck with me because a producer, it entails so many things, but those are the bottom line things that you're doing. You're the point of contact for people to speak to. The director, especially Jack, he has so many things going on in his head, and he can't he can't stop what he's doing, or he can't stop his vision to answer questions that could be answered by me. So I'm kind of like the negotiator as well when I'm bringing a crew, a production crew. I'm the one who is contacting the DP, the grips, the gaffers, the PAs, the AD, everyone, all the important crew members. I'm the one that's contacting them and working out their rates, or seeing what kind of wiggle room they have, or okay, if your rate is too high, then can we discuss back end points? It's just certain things to get certain people that you really, really want, especially great ACs, great DPs. I mean, those are make or break. So there's that. There's the cast. I mean, I was very, very, I had a heavy hand in the cast. I like that, be very heavily involved in the cast that I choose in each and every project, especially when we're we have someone in mind that we're writing after. And, you know, I'm a bulldog as well. You know what I mean? Going
Yeah,
back,
no, I gotcha.
having the director's back, no matter what, their creative vision, making sure it's not compromised by anyone. There was even, you know, some days on set when we were filming A Private Eye that the police would, you know, come up to our set and they, you know, try to shut us down. Hey, where's your permits? Hey, I got them right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Don't let the cops shut you down, man. We're making
yeah, I'm
art.
everything by the book, everything legitimate, making sure we're getting our SAG paperwork in, making sure we're just meeting our deadlines, making sure, you know, I'm at Video Village. You know, there's a lot of producers that are on sets and they just stay in Video Village and they kind of just, you know, they feel like, you know, hot shots or whatever. But like, not only am I in Video Village to make sure the shots are good and making sure, you know, oh, that boom mic dip. Hey, Jack, we need another one. Or, you know, I'm on set making sure everyone is good. I'm keeping the morale high. I'm making sure because, you know, some of these shoots are anywhere from 15 days to 25 days, maybe a 30-day shoot. And, you know, when it gets to that second, third week, people are getting kind of burnt out, getting kind of gassed out. So that's my job to make sure, hey, we got it. We got it, guys. You know what I mean? Hey,
Yep.
we got Starbucks today. We got donuts. You know, it's just those little things that make want to work hard, you know, the hardest that they've ever worked to just deliver the best picture, you know, for you and with you. So it's just coming up with just different strategies and different tactics for the film. Using all of my resources and favors for the film. That's my job. It's just being all around for the film. Anything that I can get done, that's my job.
Yeah. So is this the first like feature-length film you've produced, or have you produced feature-length films before?
Yeah, this is my first feature-length film that I produced, especially the one that's going to be, you know, in theaters everywhere. You know, I've done some short films, I've done proof of concepts, I've shot pilots, and all of those where, you know, learning lessons. And, you know, as I'm on each set, I'm meeting different crew members, meeting different casts, and, you know, through the through that whole time, I was just able to accumulate just the Rolodex of people. And so by the time we get to The Private Eye, it's like, all right, this is our first feature. We're going to call in all our favors. We're going to call in the best DPs, the best ACs that we know of, and we're just going to work together. You know, a lot of these people have become friends of mine, like personal friends outside of film. So it just it doesn't even seem like we're at work. That's the best part of it. It's just a bunch of friends hanging out together, doing what we love, and creating something that is just going to be timeless. You know, when I see this film, it's just timeless. It doesn't have a year stamped on it. It doesn't look like something that just came out in 2023 or 20. Like, this looks like a Mike Nichols situational 90s kind of film. And that's kind of hard to, you know, recreate, you know, something from the 90s. We didn't throw any filters on it. We didn't do any grains or anything like that. It's just how Jack is as a director.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a chance to meet Jack, and he's quite the director. It's like I was like, I know you were excited working with him, and I was just getting like excited just talking to him, man. I was just like,
Yeah.
he's had the aura to him, if I can say that. It's like he's like, and like just the way he was telling me how he's going to distribute this film and everything. He's like
Yeah.
forging his own path and stuff. And you know, I really admire that. I really do.
Yeah, this film is, you know, completely 100% independent. You know, I was reading an article not too long ago with Martin Scorsese. He was saying that the term indie film is such a bad label. It gives it this bad rap. It pigeonholes indie filmmakers. And, you know, people are, you know, less inclined to go see it when they see an indie stamp. And you know, he's saying that, you know, the theater shouldn't just be a home for these roller coaster movies. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
Marvel action films, like, we have to get back to real cinema. You know, he mentioned the Safdie brothers, you know, is keeping cinema alive. And we want to be one of those people as well to just keep this art alive. You know, it takes a village to even do these kind of projects. So, you know, we just want to give it all we got, and, you know, this is like our, if I can compare, Christopher Nolan, he had The Following, and then he had Memento, and this is like our Memento. We already did The Following, short films and whatnot, and that gave us like our boost and our confidence. But now
Right.
this is a great mystery film, and we did it with a great budget, and now give us the bigger budgets.
Yeah, exactly. Just you get that $200 million and then you can make whatever you want, man.
Yeah, he gave me $200 million to do a film. I'd be trying to figure out, this is the producer in me. I'm going to try to figure out how we can break that $200 million down to do multiple projects. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, no, I feel you.
I don't need 200 million to do Avatar. No, give that to them. All right, we're gonna do.
Okay, I'm just saying though, if studio, let's just say Marvel, because Marvel's like one of the biggest studios in the world. Just say if Marvel gave you $200 million and just say, hey, like let's say Kevin Feige. Let's say Kevin Feige went to you and say, "Hey, Hope, I want you to co-produce a movie with me. Like, what movie would you want to produce?" I guess I'm just asking a hypothetical question. Let's just do a fantasy question. Yeah, let's just do it. This is like if Kevin
Okay.
Feige, who's the president of Marvel Studios, in case the folks don't know, went to you and say, "Hope, I want you to co-produce a film with me. Like, what project would you want to do it?" Let's just make this a question, because
It,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm assuming it has to be a Marvel project. Yeah.
Yes, it has to be a Marvel project. Yes.
Ah, man, that's such a good question, man. I mean, the Black Panther franchise was so amazing, and I got so many versions in my head. If I was on that project, what I would do,
Oh
first I
yeah.
said co-producing, and then how do I get on as like a co-writer? You know what I mean? Or how do
Oh
and
yeah.
so my family's from Nigeria. And a lot of Nigerians, even when we were seeing Black Panther, we was like, what dialect is this? Like we were kind of confused. Like, okay, we can kind of tell who put this together. So I would want to make it authentic as possible. And I got so many different ideas. I mean, we haven't even seen the different villages within Wakanda. Like there's so many other tribes, you know what I mean, in Africa, Nigeria. So I would I would do like not an origin story. We
Yeah.
see T'Challa, his son now, so he'd be incorporated. But I would really, I think doing Black Panther, I would do it justice for sure.
Hmm.
That's my family background. So I mean, we're talking Africa, we're talking Wakanda. That's something that I would love to be a part of. Yeah, I was saying Ryan Coogler's a beast. I love what he did with that, not stepping on his toes or
Oh
anything.
no, no. I've been following Ryan Coogler ever since he did Fruitvale, man. It's like
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what he does next.
yeah. It's who knows. I know it's gonna be something monumental.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna wrap it up and basically just saying, so what projects do you have next coming up? Can you give us a little tease?
Yeah. I'll give you a little slate actually,
Oh, okay.
We're having such a great, conversation. The next feature that I'm working on, it was with Jack. It's called A Soul to Squeeze. It's a horror film.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember you told me about that. Yeah.
Kentucky in Ohio. Then I have a romance, kind of like drama, hectic, feature. It's called Closure. And then I have a series that I'm in conversations with selling right now called Galdem. And that's kind of like a John Q meets like Uncut Gems. And
Oh,
we
okay.
wrote it for the UK. It's UK characters, it's based in UK and Paris. So that's going to be a very, very big show, women led. And yes, I can't wait for people to see that as well.
Okay.
And
I like it.
we have a Western called Ranger, and that feature is going to spin off into a series. So, kind of how Taylor Sheridan is doing. So we have a lot of projects in the work, even Utah. I mean, that's going to be like our Get Out. We're
Okay.
speaking interracial adoptions in Utah and kind of like just what's going on out there. So it's a lot. It's a lot down the pipeline. You know, it's so much down the pipeline. I just can't wait. And that's another reason why I love being a producer and a writer, because you can just work on multiple projects at a time. As long as you have the bandwidth for it, I mean, this thing never turns off. I'm constantly, me and Jack were on the phone, constantly just plotting, brainstorming, and just talking about everything that's going on. So, you know, when you have great people, great company, great friends, you know, great family, it's just a blessing to be able to do this.
No, I like that. I like that energy and everything. So anyway, last question I got is when can we see The Private Eye, man? When is it coming to a theater near you, near us?
Yeah, if Jack hasn't, you know, told you already, I'll be the first to tell you. It will be coming to a theater near you February 9th, 2024. A theater near you, whether it's AMC, whether it's Cinemark, whether it's Regal, whether it's Alamo Drafthouse, it's going to be there. So check.
No, that's great. I'm here in Cincinnati, man. I'm wishing we had Alamo Drafthouse, but
Yeah,
we don't.
we're having a screening in Cincinnati on February 3rd, and we're going to be doing a special screening like a week before it comes out. So we'll definitely get you that theater. I don't Wilton. I forgot the name of it, but
I'm pretty sure Jack said it was a Woodward Theater.
Yes,
yeah.
That will be at, and I'm sure it's going to be screening at the Woodward as well.
Okay, well, folks, you heard it. Make sure you got the date marked. It should be playing in theaters in Cincinnati. And see The Private Eye. You know, from what I've heard, it seems like an excellent film, and I certainly can't wait to watch it. So, Hope, I just want to thank you again for coming on and talking more about The Private Eye and just filmmaking in general. Really appreciate it. Is there any social where people can follow you at?
Yes, my Instagram is Hollywood Hope Hundreds, hundreds with a Z at the end. So Hollywood Hope Hundreds with a Z instead of an S. That is my Instagram. You can reach out to me, connect with me. If you got projects you're looking, you know, to actually get made and get off that dusty shelf, or, you know, if you just have any advice, you know, that you want to, you know, inquire about, reach out to me, DM me, man. I reach back.
All right, then. All right. Well, thank you very much, man.
Thank you for having me. Hey, anytime you want to chop it up, let me know. I'm here.
Okay, well, that's it for today's show. I want to thank Andria again for all the chocolate news. Thank you, Andria.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And remember, folks, you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. In addition, the Cincinnati Herald is now accepting applications for an advertising representative. So please call or text our publisher, Walter White, at 513-680-7076 for more information. I'm John Alexander Reese.
And I'm Andria Carter.
And have a good day.